So last night we were looking at how to combine like terms to solve an equation, and tonight we're going to be doing the same thing, but this is going to be part 2. So make sure you have a piece of paper out and your colored pencils, and make sure you have this equation down here copied on your own paper. Pause me if you need to. Okay, let's look at the first thing I have to do. Before I can even use these grouping symbols, the first thing I have to do is deal with my distributive property. Distributive property isn't so bad, you just have to remember to do it first. So before I do anything else, I've got to do distributive. So let's come over here and let's look at what this looks like. Pause me and do it on your own, and then let's check. All right, hopefully you recognize you multiply these by this. I'm not going to touch what's over here on this side because that's the opposite side of my equation. All right, so I'm going to get 2 times 5x. I'm going to bring down my sign, and then I'm going to do 2 times 3. Remember, this 2 has to go to both places. And that equals 14. Now again, before I can go to grouping, I've got to simplify. So 2 times 5 is 10x minus 2 times 3, which is 6, which equals 14. All right, now I'm at a place where I can end up using my colors. So I'm going to circle my one with a variable. And because I don't have a sign in here, I'm going to add a positive, because no sign means it's positive. And then I'm going to box my constants. All right, and remember that you want to get your variable by itself. So what I'm going to end up having to do is add this constant to both sides. So how do I add a negative? What is the opposite of a negative 6? I'm going to add a positive 6. And I'm going to do that to both sides. That should give me 10x. It's positive 10x. And that's plus 0 equals what? 20. Good. All right, which is just the same as 10x equals 20. All right, remember now after I've done this, now I can undo my addition or subtraction, and then once I've done that, then I can undo my multiplication or my division. So notice that 10x is I'm multiplying x by 10, so I'm going to undo it by dividing 10 on both sides. So that ends up giving me x equals 2. All right, good job. Now remember, if you wanted to check this, you would have to come back up here to your original equation and plug it in. So let's do that really fast, just to make sure this works. So I have 2 times 5. 5x is the same as 5 times 2 minus 3. And I'm saying that's equal to 14, and I want to check that. So to check that, I'm going to solve what's in parentheses first. And remember, order of operations, GEMDOS. I need to multiply first, so I'm going to get 10 minus 3. Does that equal 14? Let's solve what's in parentheses first. And see, does this equal 14? And this is the same as 2 times 7, which does indeed equal 14. So this means that my x does indeed equal 2. All right, let's do one more practice with the distributive property before I have you do some on your own. All right, make sure you have this one copied on your paper. Pause me if you need. And let's do this one together. Remember, the first thing that I have to do is my distributive, because I've got that right here. So let's do it. 38 equals what? This is going to go here and that. Notice that this is negative 3 times 4y. Bring your sign down, that's plus. And then it's still negative 3 times 2 plus y. Notice that I have to take this whole negative 3 and I've got to multiply that by each of these terms. Okay, so make sure that you have this negative in here. Highlight your negative with a red if you need to. All right, I've got negative, sweet. All right, now we have to simplify. Remember to keep your equals down in a straight line. Negative 3 times 4 is what? Negative 12y plus negative 6 plus y. Now let's look at using our colors and boxing. All right, now I'm going to use pink for my y's. I'm going to circle them. Make sure you get your signs in. All right, the next thing is my constants. Okay, notice this one doesn't have one, so I'm just gonna make sure I add that this is positive. All right, now notice this guy here has a positive and a negative. A positive plus a negative is always a negative. So I'm gonna scratch out that positive, or I'm gonna use my pencil and I'm gonna erase it, and I should have just simply -6 in this box. All right, let's look now at rearranging our terms. So hopefully you have this written down. Now what I can do is I can combine my like terms. So by combining terms, I'm not moving anything onto another side yet. The only thing I'm doing is if I have two circles on the same side or two greens on the same side of my equation, I'm going to end up reducing them into one circle. So how do I get these into one circle? Well, let's look at this. This is the same as -12 plus 1. Remember that there's like this hidden 1 right here in front of my y. So -12 plus 1 is what? Well, that's the same as 12 minus 1, and take the sign of the larger. 12 is negative, so it should be -11 y. Don't forget to add in your variable. All right, now what I can do is undo my addition or subtraction. So do I have something else over here by my pink? Do I have a green? I do. I'm going to try to move this green over here onto this side. So in order to do that, I've got to add something to both sides. What could I add that would get this to be 0? Well, if I add +6, it's the opposite of what's in here, and that's going to give me 0. So what I do on one side, I've got to do on the other. So that is going to give me, good, I'm glad you guessed it. It's going to give me 44 equals -11y. Okay, because these cancel out, and all I'm left with is this guy. Now I can work on undoing my multiplication or division. I'm multiplying y by -11, so I'm going to divide it by -11. I'm going to do that over here too. So hopefully you recognize that y equals -4. Good job. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple that I want you to solve on your own, and then we get to move on tonight. All right, on your own paper now, I would like you to follow those same steps, and I would like you to solve these 5 equations. Make sure to copy them on your own paper, maybe take your red highlighter and highlight your negatives for me, and then rewatch the videos if you have any questions or if you're not sure. And I will see you in class tomorrow. Good job tonight.